President Joe Biden heads to Europe Wednesday in hopes that face-to-face talks with NATO, European, and G7 leaders will achieve what virtual diplomacy has so far failed to do: end Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The White House recognizes that this whirlwind trip aims to achieve a lot in very little time. He begins with the NATO summit on Russia Thursday.
He will also reaffirm our ironclad commitment to our NATO allies and to defend every inch of our NATO territory. Then he will join a scheduled European Council summit to discuss our shared concerns about Ukraine, including transatlantic efforts to impose economic sanctions on Russia, provide humanitarian support to those affected by the violence, and address other challenges related to the conflict. Later in the day, he will attend the G7 meeting called by Germany to further discuss with our allies and partners the consequences we are imposing on Russia for its war of choice.
In addition to imposing strict sanctions against Russia, the U.S. has also flooded Ukraine's coffers with $13.6 billion in military and humanitarian aid. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has begged the United States, to no avail, to establish a no-fly zone over his country. He has repeatedly warned that Russian President Vladimir Putin will not stop at Ukraine. A recent Russian strike on the western city of Lviv hit just 80 kilometers from the Polish border.
Next will be Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Moldova, Georgia, Poland. Then they will be walking until they reach the Berlin Wall.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken recently visited the Baltic nations to hear their concerns. Latvia's Deputy Prime Minister and Defense Minister told VOA that NATO members near Ukraine want to see some fundamental changes.
That basically we need a different type of forward presence for all the nations, starting from the south of Turkey till the north of the Baltics. And also the strategy should be, our philosophy of our defense of our alliance should be set in a different way.
Latvia's foreign minister told VOA that Eastern Europe sees no quick end to ongoing talks between Ukraine and Russia.
Our position is that Ukraine clearly is the country that should decide what kind of agreement it wants. No red lines, no pushing Ukraine, because Russia has attacked Ukraine and we must help Ukraine to defend its sovereignty, not to try to impose any kind of deal that wouldn't be in the best interest of Ukraine. So from that point of view, I don't want to be rather optimistic or pessimistic. I want to be realistic. I think that it may take some time.
But analysts ask whether there is a point in NATO and others holding discussions without either Ukraine or Russia at the table.
I'm afraid I see no possibility of any kind of resolution here which includes signatories from NATO countries, Ukraine and Russia. And the very reason for that is that Russia's principal objective is to ensure that Ukraine is not a westward-facing country. And if that is its objective, and Ukraine's principal ambition in life, so to speak, is to be more Western and more westernized, then there is nothing that NATO can do to solve that.
From Brussels, Biden will head to Poland's capital on Friday. Meanwhile, less than 1,000 kilometers away, Ukraine burns. Anita Powell, VOA News, Washington.